Good morning. It is 5:47 a.m. on Thursday, August 17th, 2017. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I did take the day off work yesterday and used it to get a bunch more sleep. Not as much as would have been nicer, except I had, uh, business I still had to attend to, like taking Luna, to the hospital and picking her up again later after her treatment required a level of togetherness that prevented me from sleeping as much as I might have otherwise. But I did get some rest. I'd say I'm feeling marginally better today, so fingers crossed that I can just be on the upswing and just power through the rest of it without, I don't want to overdo it. I did actually pull it together enough last night to go in and do a quick improv set. Um, a friend of mine from improv classes invited me as kind of a last minute join to do a just a half hour improv bit last night. Wasn't too late since we weren't having so many levels last night. It was available, so it just kind of worked out that I didn't have to be out late to do it or anything like that. So I don't know if it was. At the same, I was going to say I don't know if it was at my most higher energy show. It's possible that being sick impacted it somewhat, but the adrenaline from stage nerves kind of takes care of that to some extent. And then you just you go back to where you were afterwards. Anyway, though, so yesterday, yeah, spent most of the day going back to bed. So, but this morning, it, still thinking about the ongoing echoes and ramifications of the stuff that happened last weekend in Charlottesville. Obviously, like, the situation is not really improved. We still have a president who's, doing what he's doing. But I will say that this morning I saw some pictures of what happened in Charlottesville last night, which is that a counter protest aimed to take back the park where the the Tiki Torch March had occurred Friday night last week, and just seeing a bigger crowd peacefully holding up candles instead of torches. I tell you, it did some work in making me feel a little better about the world. Sure did. Obviously, there's a long way to go because all of those people who, the racist people who marched, they didn't go anywhere. They're still around. They're planning more stuff. We're still dealing with it in the government, but again, like, it's kind of, certainly this is like what I was saying earlier. Is, I have a position of privilege, and I think that has occasionally allowed me to be naive on this subject. But it's just one of those things where Nazis are supposed to be like the old World War II, thing. It's like the standard villain that you trot out because, well, nobody likes Nazis, right? So it's like, it's the all-purpose villain that, if you want to just have a cardboard cutout of a villain and say, well, how can we make people really hate them and really convey that they're awful? It's like, oh, well, make them Nazis too. And the idea that there's people like that actually still around, and of course people who might not, and it's like, of course there are people who would not claim that name, but still push for racist, fascist ideology and wouldn't call themselves Nazis. So there's that. But there's also people who are actually Nazis. And it's just bizarre and inexplicable, and it's a sad realization that it's not just old people. That it is an awful virus that is continuing to propagate itself. And yeah, so it's we have to continue to treat it. It is you know it is treatable, but you have to do it. You can't just let it go unchecked. So anyway, if anyone wondered, yeah, I am opposed to the alt-right, and I think that the people who marched in Charlottesville are awful, and I hope that these Confederate war memorials get taken down all over the place, wherever they are, because it's one thing to talk about erasing history. It's another thing to say placing history on a pedestal, right? Because if the idea of defending a Robert E. Lee statue is that, oh, it's our history, context is everything, right? Because you can have a history that is a shameful period in your history, and that you feel that it is important to not forget about it so that you don't repeat it. Well, yeah, you can definitely do that, and the way that you do that is not by placing a statue of him on a pedestal in a public park, because that conveys a completely different message. So, if you want to appreciate the history, then perhaps it's helpful if you actually know the history and use that to make a decision that you should not be on a public statue that looks like he's being honored. Anyway, I'm rambling now, so I will go ahead and sign off of this and talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.